Senator Mendoza, are you ready for presentation? Proceed, Senator Mendoza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senators, I'm here to present SB 270. Under current law, the Court Reporters Board, the CRB, has limited authority to impose penalties on any court reporter or court reporting corporation that is rendering services without a court reporting license. For unlicensed entities, however, the CRB has had challenges when attempting to impose fines for ethical and legal violations. This has jeopardized the integrity of the court reporting profession and creates a disadvantage for licensed businesses that provide court reporting services and adhere to the ethical and legal guidelines set by the Court Reporting Board. SB 270 strengthens the authority of the CRB to regulate or prevent unlicensed individuals and corporations from unlawfully rendering court reporting services in California. Specifically, SB 270 defines the manner in which the CRB can issue fines or injunctions for acts in violation of the CRB's professional and ethical rules for certified shorthand reporters. With me today, we have Ignacio and Brooke Ryan with the California Court Reporters Association.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the California Court Reporters Association. I'll keep my remarks brief so my client can comment. This bill is really just a very narrow bill trying to focus on providing a very specialized tool that can go in the toolbox of the California Court Reporter Board to go after those individuals and entities who are operating in California outside of the law. That's all it really does. We don't want anyone trying to operate outside the law, and we don't want them trying to argue that they are not covered by the law. So this is an additional tool for them. It's very narrow, and yet it's an additional tool with additional torque, as I like to say. So I ask for your support. I'll turn it over to my client.
Chair, members, my name is Brooke Ryan. I'm an official court reporter with the Sacramento Superior Court. I've been a licensed reporter for 19 years, and I've been with Sacramento Superior Court for 17. I am the president-elect of the California Court Reporters Association, and we believe that this bill protects the thousands of licensed court reporters in this state. We urge your aye vote, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Madam Chair, members, yes. Ed Howard with the Deposition Reporters Association, representing the freelance facet of this profession. We want to thank the Senator and CCRA very much for bringing this bill forward. We support it as an example of how unlawful practice has run rampant through this profession. Your analysis mentions a particular case. The reason that there were no fines upheld in that case is because the court held that the corporation was not lawfully here practicing in the first place. So it addresses a major problem. We thank both the Senator and the sponsor and urge your aye vote.
Any others here in support? Opposition? Committee members? Senator Berryhill?
I got a question. This is one example that you're talking about today. Isn't there already law that you can't do that? Give me some for examples. I'll let
the people in the front line actually to give some examples of how this is affecting them.
Yeah, the board does have general authority and actually specific authority to go after individuals who are operating outside the law. There's a number of statutes which address that. This is very specific. So for a very specific situation, it makes clear what authority the court has on a number of fronts so that it isn't just a blanket authority of the board. Specifically lays out things that the court can order, for example, invalidating a transcript that was produced by an unlicensed court reporter. Specific language like that is not in existing law, so that's why we just kind of made some tweaks to it.
Yeah, for me, I'm not sure, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not sure this is needed. I mean, how widespread is it? This just strikes me as something that isn't a very widespread problem. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Senator, it's Ed Howard for DRA again. It is an extraordinarily widespread problem. Alone among all of the Department of Consumer Affairs boards, somewhere in the mists of time, the Court Reporters Board got the notion that it did not have jurisdiction over professional corporations. Again, every other board as a long-standing matter, understood that it had jurisdiction over professional corporations. The whole reason why we even allow professional corporations to exist is because they're very tightly regulated. Professional corporations can't be licensed. They can't be disbarred. So for whatever reason, a culture grew up at this board, since corrected, that allowed these corporations to practice, including, Senator, corporations from out of state that are not allowed to practice here at all, who every day are providing services for a very significant plurality of the depositions in this state. And by way of the necessity of this bill, Mr. Hernandez gave a terrific example. Under current law, the board is empowered under CCP 1085, the regular writ of mandate statute, to go in and stop an unlawful practice. So that's current law. That's the general authority, exactly the type that Mr. Hernandez mentioned. But what's lacking are sort of more specific penalties that would cause these corporations, from a business judgment perspective, to start complying with the law. So something that is perhaps short of the cataclysm of getting an injunction saying you can't practice at all, but something more akin to what the bar can do to my license, which is cite and fine me, which is chastise me, something short of actually disbarring me. So as Mr. Hernandez and the senator have said, this provides more tools in the toolbox short of the apocalypse of preventing someone from practicing entirely, and offers motivations for these corporations who should be practicing the law to have a level playing field to do so.
So you would argue that this is, professional corporations are the ones that are bending the
Absolutely, yes.
both in and out of state.
Mr. Chair, if I may, yeah, that's correct. And we did kind of a quick survey with folks who work in the regulatory field, just to ask kind of how often they've seen it recently. And they gave us a long list of entities that they have found recently that they've identified that are operating outside of the law in California, and not operating in a very narrow circumstance. They're operating pretty widely throughout California. They named off, I think, 10 companies just off the top of their head.
Senator Mendoza?
I just want to give an example here for Mr. Berryhill. In 2010, the CRB found that the U.S. Legal, a Texas-based corporation, was providing court reporting services in California and offering incentives and gifts in exchange for depositions, a clear violation of California's professional standards. U.S. Legal argued that the board, the CRB, lacked jurisdiction to issue citations to them. In the subsequent 2012 case, Court Reporters Board versus California versus U.S. Legal, the court agreed with U.S. Legal, finding that the CRB had no authority to impose sanctions and fines against U.S. Legal for noncompliance with anti-gift giving regulations. The court stated that there is no statutory authorization for such a power, and that the court cannot simply invent one.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, meaning, Senator, that the only remedy available to the board was not to cite and fine them for unauthorized practice or do something short of actually kicking them entirely out of the state. The only option was to kick them entirely out of the state. So what this bill seeks to do is to provide a menu of options analogous to, for corporations, analogous to those that would exist for licensees.
Yeah. What are you trying to do for this?
There goes Texas again, huh?
If I may, one other example, which is a more egregious one, is you have some of these corporations are simultaneously offering to provide services to one side in litigation to help them win at trial, while in the very same case providing the services of court reporters who are supposed to be impartial judicial officers. This needs to stop, and this is a good bill.
Thank you.
Yes, Senator Jackson?
I just want to say that that's the part that's really distressing, is that court reporters have to be objective. They're the ones that are taking down the transcripts, providing the information on appeal. When testimony needs to be reread, it has to be done impartially. And when you have a firm that tells you they're committed to helping you win your case, that might be okay in Texas, but I think we call it cheating here in California. And it's just, we really, I mean, we need to maintain, to the extent we can, the integrity of the court system. And when you can't really rely on court reporters for impartiality, you've blown the whole system. So, as I say, that may be what they do in Texas, but that we cannot permit that in California. So I'm going to move the bill.
Do we have opposition? Have we had opposition?
We didn't have them yet.
No. Oh, okay, very good. Thank you. We do have others in support? Those in opposition? Seeing no one, very good. We'll have a motion by Senator Hernandez. Any other comments? I'm sorry. Yeah, Senator Jackson, thank you. Motion by Senator Jackson. Please call the roll.
Motion is due pass and we refer to Rules Committee. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Bates. Aye. Bates, aye. Berryhill. Aye. Berryhill, aye. Block. Aye. Block, aye. Galgiani. Aye. Galgiani, aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hernandez, aye. Jackson. Aye. Jackson, aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mendoza, aye. Wachowski. Aye. Wachowski, aye.
There's nine votes. The bill is out. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, SB 396 would allow ambulatory surgical clinics, which are Medicare certified, to have the option of being licensed by the Department of Public Health. It would also provide that an accredited outpatient setting, which is regulated by the medical board, is required to perform peer review of physicians and surgeons and other medical staff within its facility. That the outpatient setting must also provide specific information to the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development, OSHPD, about the patients they serve and the care they provide, and would allow for unannounced inspections by the medical board and move initial certification of accreditation from 3 years to 2 years. The primary reason for allowing ambulatory surgical clinics to be licensed is because the department currently has jurisdiction over ambulatory surgical clinics which have Medicare certification. And yet, because of a legal decision, they were no longer allowed to license these clinics. After the legal decision, the only recourse these clinics had was to become accredited, which places them under the medical board's jurisdiction. By allowing licensure with the department, the ambulatory surgical clinics will now be under the oversight of one agency and not have to meet dual and multiple requirements for operating in California. Concerns have been raised by the California Society of Plastic Surgeons as to the peer review requirements, reporting to OSHPD, unannounced inspections by the medical board or accreditors, and the 2-year certification of accreditation requirement. We have met with the Society of Plastic Surgeons and agreed to clarify the peer review requirements, discuss changes to the reporting requirements for OSHPD, give adequate notice for inspections of their facilities, and require a 3-year rather than 2-year certification requirement. Most of these amendments will be made in Health Committee by next week. I have with me Bryce Doherty, representing the California Ambulatory Surgery Association. And Jennifer Simoes, Bryce? And then Jennifer Simoes from the Medical Board, who will answer questions that you may have.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Simoes with the Medical Board of California. The board strongly supports SB 396. Currently, there's a serious deficiency of ambulatory surgical center data for accredited outpatient settings. This bill would require these settings to report the same aggregate utilization and patient encounter data the licensed surgical clinics are already required to report to OSHPD, and this aggregate data is available to the public. And this bill will require peer review evaluations at least every 2 years, and these evaluations can be used as an important tool to ensure that existing accreditation requirements are being met. Lastly, this bill would require that accredited outpatient settings performed by accreditation agencies be unannounced after the initial inspections, and this is in line with inspections done on other types of ambulatory surgical centers. And this bill will further the board's mission of consumer protection, and we respectfully request your aye vote. Thank you.
Support?
Madam Chair, Bryce Doherty on behalf of the California Ambulatory Surgery Association, commonly referred to as CASA. We are also in strong support of the bill, principally two specific provisions, one of which is clarifying the pathway that these centers, at their discretion, have the ability to be licensed by the Department of Public Health. They were licensed up until 2007. We think it's important that consumers getting care in these sorts of facilities have the highest standard of regulatory oversight, and that regulatory oversight be consistent. This bill ensures that. Second piece is that these surgery centers will now have access to the 805 reports, which the medical board houses. The reason why that clarification is needed because all of these centers have to credential their physicians and give them privileges to do the particular procedures that they're doing in their centers. without access to those reports to see if there were restrictions on their privileges at another facility or what have you, puts patients in harm's way. So we're supportive of both of those provisions and glad to support this with the medical board in the interest of public safety. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. Connie Delgado with the California Hospital Association. Our letter in support was sent late last week, but we wanted to thank the author and particularly the staff for really working with us on our concerns, but we do appreciate the peer review process in these outpatient settings. So for those reasons, we're in support.
Great. Thank you. Anyone here in opposition?
Madam Chair, members, Tim Madden representing the California Society of Plastic Surgeons. In Senator Hill accurately, and I appreciate his categorization of our opposition and our discussions. So we just want to thank the author and staff and sponsors for sitting down with us and walking through some of our questions. I think we're making good progress, and we look forward to working with the Senator as we move down the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others in opposition? There are none. Any questions from committee members? We have a motion. Senator Hill, would you like to close?
Respectfully asked, and I will remember. Thank you.
Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Motion is due pass and referred to Health Committee. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Bates.
Aye.
Bates, aye. Berryhill. Berryhill, aye. Block. Block, aye. Galgiani. Galgiani, aye. Hernandez. Hernandez, aye. Jackson. Jackson, aye. Mendoza. Mendoza, aye. Wachowski. Wachowski, aye.
It's unanimous, and it's out. Congratulations, Senator Hill.
Thank you very much.
That might be the
Madam
first
Chair.
one today.
All right, we will, so I don't know which ones do we have to open the roll on?
I got it. I'll do it. 2, 3, and 6.
2, 3, and 1?
2, 3, and 6.
2, 3, and 6.
I'll do it.
Very good. We will open the roll on item number 2, SB 284 by Senator Cannella. Please call the roll of absent members.
Motion is due pass and referred to Judiciary Committee. Current votes 8-0. Jackson. Aye. Jackson, aye.
That bill is out with 9 votes. Thank you very much. Item number 3, SB 323, Senator Hernandez. Please call the absent members.
Motion is due pass and as amended and referred to Appropriations Committee. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Bates. Berryhill. Okay.
7-0. That bill is out as well. Item number 6, SB 643 by Senator McGuire. Please call the absent members.
Motion is due pass and referred to Rules Committee. Current votes 6-0. Bates. Berryhill. Galgiani. Aye. Galgiani, aye. That's 7-0, and that's out.
The bill has 7 votes, and that bill is out as well. Thank you all for your attention. This hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.